Hey guys, I want to give you my thoughts on your formal presentation. One of the things we need to do is just go ahead and wrap it up with what we do have and go from there. So, the content listed in blue is stuff that we should already have done. One of the things I want to point out on the citations for justifications, you should have these listed where you have the references and you have the summaries posted. What I want you to do with these, duplicate the slides, and then on the original slides, you provide a full summary. On the duplicate slides, what I want you to do is reduce the content of the summary to focus it in on what's important to your presentation. So I need you to identify the key points from the article or the key ideas from the article and how those justify your problem. So reduce the content of these slides to bring it into focus, why this article is important and how it helps you identify and justify the problem. And then what I want you to do with the original slides is right click on them in the presentation on the left side. If you right click on the slide, you can choose hide slide. Let me verify that. I'm going to choose this and it says hide slide at the bottom of what you right click. Okay, so next, we are going to, then the next thing is the attack plan diagram, similar solutions, mind mapping, matrices. You should have 2 of those. Looking at our solution, that sort of thing. So solution justification, all of these should be done all the way through parameters. So everything up to this point where we get to the notebook sketches, this is where we did the napkin and all that sort of thing, and the pictures of the model that you built. Okay, this is where all of us were to this point. All of you should have had this done all the way to this point. So from this point on, I'm going to provide you some examples of some presentations, suggest some alternatives for content that's missing, and I also want to repeat and stress that if you put a photo in your presentation, you need to include a caption with it to explain what it is. And this will also translate into your innovation portal. All right, so first order of business after the pictures of the model is the technical drawings, both isometric and orthographics. So produce a complete set of drawings of your original prototype, and I would suggest, since we are in a really strange situation here, based on what you've learned from your first prototype, go ahead and do a set of technical drawings for a second iteration of your improved prototype based on what you've learned from what we've already done. So yes, I'm suggesting 2 complete sets of drawings here. So the first prototype and recommendations for a second prototype. For instance, the one with the car shade guys, do a drawing of what you would build for a full-size vehicle rather than the model you were testing. So for the material list, cost and quantity, estimate. Just list what you know you would need and just get some estimations of cost and amounts and that sort of thing. Okay. For the procedure of the build, again, estimate what would you have to do. If you didn't actually get it all the way built, then give me an estimate of what you would have to do, the steps you would have to go through. This could be an exercise in imagination. Safety concerns, this should be easy to develop. So you're just identifying the places you need to be paying attention to with safety during the build process. For instance, if you're using a soldering iron, you need to make sure you know how to use a soldering iron appropriately so you don't burn your fingers, right? Somebody out there? For tool selection, this should also be easy to develop, and so you'll need to identify the tool and what its purpose is. And then the timeline of the build, and again, this may largely be an estimate. So this is just kind of laying out the build step by step, telling me how many minutes, hours, or days you need to do for each process. And if you don't know, just ballpark it, okay? Document the build process. Use the photos that you have from your original build. If you don't have photos, then make up diagrams. Use diagrams to support your documentation of the build process. Testing plans, you should have 5 of these plans fully developed. This is something you should have already done. Okay, so the plans, that shouldn't be a problem. You should have that already done. So refer back to that, and I'm going to give you some examples of some to look at, and be sure you're getting, be sure you post that and make sure it's complete and can be followed even without you standing there explaining how to do it. Okay. Testing results, this is where it's going to get a little dicey. Present what you have. An alternative, if you don't have content for the results, just include the slides but hide them. So you should have a testing result page for every test plan. But if you don't have any content, right click and hide the slides. Add in technical drawings and discuss an improved prototype based on what you observed in the initial prototyping process. So this is where you could talk about this is a second iteration based on what we've learned at this point. Okay, and that's something you could use to fill in that gap there. For the conclusion, what you're doing here is you're comparing your prototype and the results to the problem statement and your solution statement and going through every point showing how your prototype does or does not solve the problem. So highlight the test results that you do have and then highlight limitations and problems encountered. And again, I don't want to see excuses. Don't put in there, hey, we had to stop because of COVID-19. Just focus it in on what you actually did, okay, or limitations you perceive through this prototyping process, okay? For the recommendations, you're going to suggest improvements to your prototype to more completely solve the problem. Be specific about what to change, how to change it, and the expected results of that change. For the last couple of slides, one slide is a thank you. List everybody that's helped you through this project, okay? And then the last slide is a question slide. During the formal presentation, we would open up the floor for you to ask, for the audience to ask questions and for you to answer them. So we'll have some form of that, probably in this way, modified way we're going to do this, but that's kind of where we're at. After you get some feedback from your presentations, we're going to take that and kind of summarize those evaluations, reflect on this entire process, and reflect on, if you had a chance to do it again, what you would do differently with your prototype. And that's going to be the end of the presentation and the end of the project.